Well, hello, everybody. It's Dr. Sasheen, author, teacher, and expatriate from the hustle and grind of higher education. Here to talk to you today about why the illusion of free time that you swear you're getting or you think you're getting in your professional life is just that. It's an illusion. Before we start, let me give you a little spiel. I'm Dr. Sasheen, again, author, teacher, expatriate from the hustle and grind of higher education, and your guide on how to get out of the hustle and grind of a profession that is determined to chew you up and spit you out. I talk to women of color, Black women in particular, about why they need to take the best years of their life, the rest of the years of their life, and make them more about them. Time to reclaim your pivot and get to the magic of starting over. So, today I'm talking about this illusion of free time. And it's really interesting because in a hustle culture, free time is kind of an anathema to us, right? And so, there's a lot of push to live the good life in hustle culture, but the good life is this illusionary thing that has been put over us. So if you think about it, most people, especially in professions, save their free time for vacation, if they even take a vacation. Because for the most part, jobs just don't stop. Professions, especially salary professions, they don't ever turn off. There is there are very few people that I can think of that I know personally who ever actually who live in the United States. Now, this is different if you live in other countries because the hustle and grind culture isn't quite the same as it is here in the United States. But there are very few people that I know in the US who actually turn off their cell phones, who actually have a separation of their work from their life. And so it's interesting because we toss around work-life balance, we toss around living the good life, having free time, especially because you're on salary, you get vacations, you get weekends off. All of this is literally a bunch of BS. And let's break down why. Number one is overtime. Because we are in professional positions like teachers, which is where I come from, or doctors, lawyers, um, all kinds of different professions, the concept of overtime doesn't really register until you realize that you are working all the time. Like literally, there is not a moment where your life isn't in some way impacted by work. Let me give you an example. I can remember when I first started in academics, I would uh, before academics, I had this rule where if my company wasn't paying for my cell phone, then I wasn't answering the phone off the clock. Like when I left the office, I left the office. And this is fine if you're an hourly employee, right? Because you're paid by the hour. But that changed significantly. And it became kind of expectation that you answer the phone if your boss calls, or if you answer the phone if the secretary calls, if the admin calls. You answer the phone, depending on your position, anytime that you're needed. And so now it isn't even, I'm not going to answer the phone if my company hasn't provided me that cell phone, I'm not going to answer it. The expectation is you will answer the phone. And most people, doesn't even occur to them to not answer that phone, to not check emails on Saturday and Sunday. How many of you today, it's Sunday today, how many of you have checked your work email to see what's coming up for tomorrow, what's coming up for the rest of the week, to begin planning? How many of you haven't actually stopped working this weekend? How many of you set aside a couple hours for a project that there are just not enough hours in the week? So all this overtime that you log, all the hours that you log outside of the actual confines of your office, and let me get to remote work in a second, all of those hours of overtime are non-compensated hours of work that you're doing for free. And someone's going to say, oh, but when you make $100,000 a year, then it's easy. No, it's not. Let's break that down. So you make $120,000 a year. Let's say that's your salary right now. So what you're telling me is that for 12 grand a month before taxes, you are owned by your job. You're owned by it because you get the luxury of working 80 hours a week, not taking a vacation, high blood pressure, hair falling out, on anti-anxiety pills. Because of all the time that you have to spend at work, you don't actually have time to take care of yourself. But 12 grand a month makes it all worth it. Are you sure about that? Because the next thing I'd like to point out is that vacations become non-existent. And what happens is people are like, oh, I'm going to go on vacation. I'm going to go on vacation. Y'all don't even take a sick day. No one even takes a sick day. They have to get debilitatingly sick in order to even think about taking a sick day. And for the most part, someone has their cell phone in the ER to make sure things are still running smoothly. And I want to point this out because in professions, especially, there is this illusion that you're working towards this greater thing. It's this thing bigger than you. You've gotten into a profession because you believe in something bigger than yourself, or you really love what you do. And so when you love what you do, it's not work, right? That is the biggest load of BS that we have been fed as Black women. If you really love what you do, it's not work. Yeah, well, if I love what I do and I'm only making $45,000 a year and I'm burned out because I'm working 60 hours a week, it's no different than if I'm making $160,000 a year and I'm burned out working 80 hours a week. I don't love it that much. I don't love it that much. But we get free time that we never actually get to use. So let's talk about vacation time. People take vacations. You're like, oh, but then people take vacations. I know women who haven't taken a vacation in 5 years. 5 years. Haven't gone anywhere. Haven't left their home state. Haven't left their home if they go to work in 5 years. Let's put COVID to the side for a second and let's talk about the non-existent vacation culture that is the US business culture. When you take a vacation, you might take 2 weeks. There are 52 weeks in a year. When you are salaried in a profession where your salary is figured in one lump sum and not hourly, you're granted 2 to 4 weeks of vacation, depending on your company, maybe more. I don't know. Maybe less. Don't know. But you might take a couple of those weeks a year. You might take a vacation day here, a vacation day there, a vacation day there. You start to see what I'm saying? So yeah, you get a vacation day, or you might plan and take a vacation week, but 51 other weeks out of the year, you're working 70 hours a week. Where's your free time? So let's see, you're working overtime, 60, 70, 80 hours, sometimes depending on your profession and what's happening, could be 100. And you're not taking any of that vacation time that's supposed to be a perk of this life, right? It's supposed to be a perk. And yet we don't take any of it. And we also don't take any sick time or paid time off, sick leave, things of that nature. We don't take any of those things. So where is all this free time? I know it's because now we can work from home. I told you I'd come back around to it. Because now that we work from home, and I see this on Twitter a lot, we're so much more relaxed and we're not micromanaged anymore. I want to talk to the Black women out there, the women of color. How many of you always knew that it wasn't about micromanaging? How many of you always understood that the fact that you were constantly hovered over had nothing to do with your job performance, but simply was something to keep the middle managers above you looking like they've done some work? So now that you're working from home, you know what's happened? You're just doing the work for them. You're just doing the work for them. They don't have to micromanage you anymore because you're putting in more hours than you did when you were at work. How is that even possible? Let me tell you how it's possible. Because now you may not have to log in until 8 or 9 o'clock, but your computer is being monitored and you have, I'm going to work a couple of hours during the day. I might break for lunch. I'm going to work a couple of hours around in the afternoon, maybe 3 or 4 of those. And out scheduling that 7 o'clock meeting, no problem. You're now working all day, different chunks of the day, but now you're working all day. Sometimes well into the night because I can just do it while I'm watching whatever the latest thing on the TV is. And your time, that free time, is becoming even more the ownership of someone else. So let's recap. What are we really talking about when we talk about free time? We don't really have any. We're giving it away in overtime if we're back in the office, or before the pandemic, for sure, we were giving it away in overtime, but we're still doing it now. We're giving it away because we don't take vacations in any huge chunks. We might sprinkle a day here, sprinkle a day there, but we work so much overtime so that when we get to vacation, we think, okay, we can turn it off. But we don't, because we take our phones, because the days are gone when you could say to an employer, I'm not answering my phone since y'all don't pay the bill. You don't pay me to call my phone 24/7. They don't have to anymore, because the expectation is you'll answer the phone because your job is calling. And we do. And the third thing is we're working from home. So now we really have free time, and yet we're giving even more of our lives over to the duty of work, because now we can do it any time of the day or night. Got to get in those 8 hours. Sometimes they're going to be 10 hours, sometimes 12 hours. I can put the kids to bed and work after they're in bed, working that bottom line for somebody else. So what does this mean to you? We were already burned out. We already had anxiety. Remember, I was talking about the pills that you have to take because there's no time to go to the doctor and you won't take a sick day. We're already burned out. We're undervalued and underappreciated already. And to top it all off, we don't really have the free time that we thought we were going to get when we chose to step into the hustle and grind of this particular profession. Notes, because I always have them, of the profession that we're supposed to love, that we're supposed to put into, because it's going to give back to us. It's going to give us, for the years that we put into it, it's going to give us the joy. And instead, what's happening is that so many of us are having the joy sucked out of us in the best years of our life. Like I said, I'm an expatriate from the world of higher education. And when I tell you how hard it is to have this conversation with people who are still in higher ed, talking about how little return there really is for the lifeblood that's getting sucked out of you, I meet a lot of resistance. And you might feel resistant right now too. You might be saying, listen, I spent X number of thousands of dollars for student loans to get this degree. And yes, I might be burned out. And yes, I might be staring down the barrel of 20 years of this profession. It's not going to really fill me with joy, but daggone it, I'm going to do it. This message is not for you. This is for my Black and brown sisters out there who are looking down the barrel of the next 10 years and looking at the amount of work that's not going to go away, the work culture that may have shifted because of COVID, but is not going to inherently become better, because now I can get you to work from home doing the exact same thing. And by the way, I'm going to put some software on your computer to make sure you are working. So now not only am I going to put some software, not only are you working from home, but you have agreed to be surveilled inside your house. What's the answer? The power of the pivot. Reclaiming your joy. If you book a call with me, what we're going to talk about is, number one, how did you get in this position? What is it that you agreed to trade off that got you here? And number two, how do you get out? How do you figure out how to get out? It's not hard. You have to invert the pyramid. We talk about Maslow's Pyramid a lot in psychology and academics, all over in engineering. Everybody talks about this happiness thing. Self-actualization's at the top, at the bottom is security, and then blah, 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 blah. You have to invert the pyramid in your life, and you have to decide that the first thing now that's most important is yourself. Not the last thing, because when you follow Maslow's hierarchy, the last thing that's most important is you. But if you invert that pyramid and you say, no, the very first thing that's important is me. I've got the money, I have the job, I have the life, and I have nothing to show for it except my hair is falling out. I'm on high blood pressure medication at 45. I'm stressed out. I never take a vacation. My kids are in school. They come home, I make dinner, put them to bed. And if I'm lucky, I have a glass of wine and Friday night TV to get me numb enough to get through the weekend, to get to Sunday night, to start all over again. And that's no way to live. Your life is too important. So the magic of starting over is what I'm offering. The idea that you can look at what you've got, look at where you are, take the skills that you have, take the life that you've lived, and pivot it to something else, because you owe it to yourself to not give the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years of your life to a place where you're already feeling undervalued, underappreciated, and burned out. So yeah, this is Dr. Sasheen. Hopefully you'll find that it's time for you to become an expatriate from the hustle and grind of your professional life. And if you do, the link is below. All right, also pick up the freebie that's attached to the link below. Sorry, I have something in my ear and I had to think about what I was going to say. Pick up the checklist below, the anti-anxiety checklist below, to see if you are in fact more stressed out than you realize, but you're masking it because you think it's something else. Pick that up, give yourself the gift of information, and then give yourself the gift of me to help guide you out. Take care. Bye.